Senate Democrats threatened to kill any potential Iranian peace deal as they continue to attack Donald Trump from the right. Here is Chuck Schumer having a full-blown meltdown over the United States losing a war that he supported, as he claims that Donald Trump would need only Republican votes for this Iranian peace deal to go through. Chuck Schumer is melting down because Donald Trump in the United States will have to pay reparations to Iran after losing this war. How else do you think this conflict is going to end? Americans are so entitled. They're the only people who believe they are owed something after losing a war. Democrats have been very tepid in their criticism of the Iran war because they secretly supported it the entire time. Their only criticism of Donald Trump starting this war was over his strategy.
So when President Trump argues that he did when no other president would, is it just simply that the bill was coming due and it fell on his watch?
I do think there's a certain element to that. And that's why I was supportive of President Trump joining in June to take the strikes that we had thought internally in the Biden administration we may have to take if there was a second term. We thought that the spring, summer of 2025 was probably, we may have to be there in the same place. And we did war games. We did some practice runs on what it would look like to look into it. And because that may have had to happen under our watch as well.
Instead of calling out Donald Trump for his grotesque war crimes and slaughtering the Iranian people, including a strike that murdered over 160 Iranian school children, Democrats like Chuck Schumer is attacking Donald Trump for being too weak on Iran. Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris makes it 100% clear that they would have attacked Iran as well if they won their election.
I want the Iranians to know that if I'm the president, we will attack Iran. Whatever stage of development they might be in their nuclear weapons program in the next 10 years, during which they might foolishly consider launching an attack on Israel, we would be able to totally obliterate them.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? This attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
So if you have proof that Iran is building a nuclear weapon, would you take military action?
I'm not going to talk about hypotheticals at this moment.
Don't get it twisted. This L the United States took to Iran was an L by the entire Uniparty, who've been pushing for this war for decades.
What's poppin'? My friend, my family, we got Nick at noon today. You know I'm always in the lab cooking. What's poppin', my friends? Unfortunately, this deal is done for. Israel is continuing their offensive into Lebanon. The Trump administration is serving us mad kayfabe. And the Democratic Party is already floating the idea of killing this peace deal. And I know a lot of you guys don't watch corporate media for your sanity. I wouldn't either if my job wasn't to break this stuff down. But that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to suffer for you guys. You have to understand that Democrat state media, known as MS Now, CNN, they are now attacking Donald Trump from the John Bolton right on this peace deal, making the argument that Israel should continue to violate the deal to continue their genocidal war in Lebanon. A lot of people don't watch this. They're airing this to the liberal boomers who believe Russia is our greatest enemy. And this is them mostly talking to themselves. But we got to analyze their ideology. This is what the opposition is attacking Donald Trump for, pursuing peace.
So much of this also depends on how Israel is engaging in Lebanon, or whether they stop engaging Lebanon. At what point is it important for the United States, for Iran and these mediators to actually bring Israel to the actual negotiating table?
What did I tell you guys about this guy? The MSNBC, these liberals, they hire these gay black dudes That's what this show is about. They have these two gay black dudes on the show, and they are here to advocate for imperialism. Isn't that interesting? That's how they sell Zionism to their audience. Let's just have some gay, zesty black dudes explain to people why Israel has the right to, quote unquote, engage in Lebanon. Meaning the murder of over 33,700 civilians in Lebanon, and they describe it as them engaging in Lebanon. And you see the question as posed. Come on, why isn't Donald Trump bringing Israel into these negotiations? Because the Israelis want to do everything they can to plunge humanity into never-ending war. What do you mean bring the Israelis into the negotiation? They're the colony of the United States. We have every single mechanism to shut them down. And the fact that Donald Trump is not doing that in J.D. Vance is just talking shit to Israel instead of actually engaging in mechanisms to hold them accountable, that's how you know that this is just them stalling for time. They might sign some peace deal up into the midterms, and Democrats and Trump is going to help them tank this. I think that's what the resistance has to be prepared for. And it's clear that Iran is prepared for that. Listen to his question again and how he frames this. And this is how you tell the quote-unquote opposition party, they was always for this war with Iran. They just wanted Donald Trump to take the fall for it.
They stop engaging Lebanon. At what point is it important for the United States, for Iran and these mediators to actually bring Israel?
Bring Israel in. That's their focus. That's what they platform. They have these gay liberals that tell you to sell imperialism to you. Look how woke Zionism is. This is insanity to me.
Mediators to actually bring Israel to the actual negotiating table.
Well, let's be clear. The Israelis, what's been going on in Israel vis-a-vis up north, Hezbollah has been causing havoc up in the north. Israel has been responding to that. Listen, no one's going to question the prime minister has very little interest in this transaction, this deal at this point. Ultimately, they also have, as John and I both know, a lot of things can be true at the same time in foreign policy. Israel's trying to defend their north. Bibi doesn't really want to do this deal.
Israel defending their north. That's how they describe it. Them seizing land in Lebanon. Why don't they describe it as Russia defending their west? The way liberals talk make me sick. And that's why it makes me sick that people will organize in this same party, where these people talk in such a rabid, Western imperialist, like their language, like the idea of Israel just engaging in the north. Ridiculous.
Bibi doesn't really want to do this deal. There's an enormous amount of anxiety among the Israelis. I was in Israel 2 weeks ago and spent a lot of time in the bunker as bombs were dropping down in Israel. So listen, a lot of things are confusing here, and the Israeli people are quite unhappy as well. So there's a lot of pressure.
You see the focus? You're an American news outlet. Why the fuck are you talking about how the Israelis feel? I don't give a fuck. Why is that your focus? How have Americans not realized how much they've been ingrained with Jewish supremacy, where despite thousands of Lebanese civilians being murdered, despite the genocide they're committing in Gaza, they want you to think about the Israeli first. Well, the Israelis, they're really upset over peace. Doesn't that show that they're horrific allies and your entire worldview is wrong? That they're obsessed with plunging America into never-ending war? That doesn't faze you at all?
On Netanyahu to keep it going in Lebanon, and obviously that's going to have a huge deal on trying to get this deal done.
So despite the nonstop media push, because I'll show you guys just a few examples. It's on MS Now, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, of course. There's been a full court press in order to convince the American people that peace is a bad thing, and they're failing. Americans still want the war in Iran ended, but few say the U.S. got the better of the agreement. Americans are so entitled They're the only people who believe that they are owed something after losing a war, after murdering hundreds of school children, after all the war crimes you engage in Iran. Americans are like, what do we get out of this? What do we get out of our terrorism? So people can, I know that you guys get a little sick in the stomach whenever I show you guys these corporate media segments. And then you guys respond with, who actually watches this stuff, Nick? And I'll tell you guys, hey man, they don't have to watch it. This is the narrative of the ruling class that gets siphoned through other media apparatuses, and it reaches the American people. So even though a lot of Americans are happy to see this war come to the end, when you hear like their statements on the details of the Iran deal and how like they're disgusted and how they don't trust Iran, that's how you know the propaganda is still seeping in. This is the good part though. The first part is about as good as it's gonna get. The conflict with Iran, what should the U.S. do now? This is great news. This is despite the insane propaganda attacking peace with Iran. 78% of Americans, the registered voters, I never get polled, but these are the people they polled. Has the U.S. permanently stopped Iran's nuclear program? Less than 1/3 of Americans believe that. But this is where stuff gets a little bit dark. This is when you start seeing the propaganda. The first two, I believe, is pretty good. But if you was to look at the rest of these American opinions on the Iran war, it's like a Klan rally. Has the United States stopped Iran from threatening other countries? Only 32% of Americans says that's done. You guys see why are Americans buying the premise that Iran is the aggressive neighbor in the region? You guys realize it's Israel and the United States committing genocide in the region, correct? Make sure the Iran people are safe and free. Only 26% of Americans in this poll say this. 74% say they're still not safe and free. Now, we know there's a lot of fuckery, essentially, with these polls. But what does it say that they can still elicit these reactions from Americans? Change Iran's leaders to pro-U.S. Not done. Most Americans acknowledge that this was a big loss for the United States. Only 22% of Americans still are copium right now. You might say the people that say it's equal for each is a little bit copium. But the 22% of Americans who believe, these are the Fox News watching boomers that think, they're like, their headlines, look at the title of their videos. Trump sends a devastating message to Iran. Iran concedes on this one major point. just pure goy slop being fed to the boomers. Look at this. Look at the propaganda of the people they poll. Remember, these are like the suburbanites. Will Iran threaten the region in the coming months? 59% of the registered voters who are polled said these people have been brainwashed into believing that Iran is the aggressor. The people who standing up against the people being slaughtered in Palestine. Iran is the country that is trying to ensure peace in the region by ending the slaughter of our Lebanese brothers and sisters. But Americans, despite there are a lot of positives out of this poll of them not supporting the war, you guys see how Americans are still Nazis who believe everything the Jewish supremacists say about their enemies? Yeah, the normies. So they want the war to end, but they still buy empire talking points. But this is the reality, guys. This is the L. They panicking over this. We have a great guest. I'm going to bring my guest, Dr. Sabreena, in here in a moment. Amazing author and a good friend of mine, the Cardinal Scholar. I'm going to bring her in a second here. This is what a defeat looks like. U.S. temporarily lifts sanctions on Iranian oil. This is what they was asking for in the first place under the Biden administration. You know how the Biden administration copied the Trump administration's policy on Iran and refused to re-sign the Iranian deal? One of the reasons why the Biden administration refused to do so is because Iran said, hey man, we're not going to come to any nuclear agreement until you lift the sanctions first. So you guys realize that Anthony Blinken and the Biden administration, they took a more extreme position than the Trump administration took now that Trump got his ass whooped, got humbled by Iran. Because this is what the United States refused to do. Now, after you guys murdered countless of their civilians, thousands of their civilians, hundreds of school children, now they're doing the thing that could have been done from day one to stop, quote unquote, Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. I think that's a pretty good intro. I want to bring my guest in. Dr. Sabreena, let me know if you're ready. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready, and I can bring her in. But this is what utter defeat looked like. And this is why Americans, there are a lot of American cope right now. A lot of Western chauvinists who don't understand why we possibly lost this war. I've been explaining for my entire time as a citizen journalist that the United States military is a grift. They're ineffective, only good at terrorism. They're good at mass slaughter and murder, but they're not warriors. People see these giant military budgets and they assume they can just topple Iran, a civilization who took out multiple expansionist empires throughout human history. A lot of people was confused about this. They were confused. How can the United States possibly lose to Ansar Allah in Yemen? How can Yemen shut down the Red Sea and be so effective? How can we possibly lose to the Taliban the way we have? What if I told you guys the military-industrial complex is just a scam by the capitalist class to enrich themselves and their friends? How they charge these massively inflated contracts, benefit from that. They have these F-35s, and Iran was shooting all these F-15s and all these aircraft out of the sky like it was nothing, with cheap drones, these aircraft carriers that cost around $500 million. No, I mean like billions of dollars, actually. They cost millions of dollars just to maintain. And Iran just fucked them up with a few drones. And they're like, oh, there was an accidental fire. We don't know how it started. Nah, we know exactly how them fires started. So this is the grift of the military-industrial complex. 800 F-35 airplane fleet struggles to justify $1.6 trillion price tag with just 25% fully mission capable amid systemic software bugs and chronic hardware failures. This is the same Pentagon who can't pass an audit. Congratulations, the United States. You got a massively inflated military that is ineffective because full of waste and fraud. This is what I've been warning people about. Let's see if I want to get my guest in now because I think I want to get her thoughts here. Dr. Sabreena, it's great to have her back on. Amazing author, decolonial scholar, and she has a new book out. This is perfect timing. I've been wanting to bring Dr. Sabreena back on the channel for a while. Welcome back, my friend, Dr. Sabreena. How you doing?
Hi, Nick. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How does she sound, Chad? She sound well? She sounds well to me. I want to get your thoughts on this because I've been breaking down. There's a lot in the world going on right now that I have to get your thoughts on. I want to discuss your book, the author of DEI Undone. We will get to that very soon. Also, I would love to get your thoughts on the state of the left and the resistance. But first, I have to get your thoughts on the Iran war, how you've been coping with it, because there have been a lot of human tragedy. What is your analysis on the situation? Once again, thank you for joining us, Dr. Sabreena.
The situation on the Iran war.
Yeah.
I was just earlier meeting with a friend and I shared with them the new stats that came out of Israel. I'm not sure if if you shared this already, but did you hear that 92% of Israelis believe that Israel lost the war against Iran?
Yeah, that makes sense. They are furious, and they're even threatening to send missiles in Washington D.C. if they ever sign a peace agreement with Iran. This is the war that Benjamin Netanyahu sold them a bag of goods, and they was delusional about Iranian capability. So I believe that, Paul.
And you know, I mean, the reason why I share those stats is that, you know, it doesn't matter what I think, right? I mean, even just look at what the sentiment is within Israel about how pathetically fruitless this was for Israel. I mean, it's such an immense and embarrassing defeat for them. And, you know, it pains me to say this because I always feel very sad, and it makes me angry about how many of our lives have to be lost in order for the needle to just slightly move towards truth and towards justice. And, you know, I still think about the 168 schoolgirls killed on day one. And so, you know, I say this with pain and rage still, that Iran did win, right? The war, in the sense that none of the stated goals of the US were, you know, achieved, right? Of the US or Israel. So in terms of winning that, you know, based on their stated goals, Iran won. And it also won in the sense that it really changed like a worldwide perception towards them. I think before this war started, people had far less knowledge about Iran.
Exactly.
They had believed all the propaganda, all this, the ridiculous stereotypes out there about, you know, these Arab men, you know, Iranian men, Persian men, mullahs, right? They had these kind of very Orientalist views. And something as simple as those freaking Lego movies, it just switched people's like perception, like a lot of stupid people who think that Iran is a bunch of mud huts. They were just shocked that, oh my God, they know how to make cartoon Lego movies.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, oh my God, they listen to the same kind of music as us. They're into TikTok. They're into, you know, like popular memes and like, so Iran's game in terms of the propaganda war or like the narrative war, I would say, was way stronger.
Yeah.
And they won people's hearts. You know, like people who weren't even on the freaking fence. People who had no fucking stake in the game were like, whoa.
People in the West was like, oh, they're actually human.
Yeah.
They're actually human who live lives that is worth living.
And so, you know, like I say all this with like such sadness, because why did 168 schoolgirls have to die for, you know, a moment like this to come where we can say that the US has had such an incredible defeat. Like Iran's perception globally has completely changed. And they achieved something that Libya couldn't do, Iraq couldn't do. And I have to say, Nick, and tell me what you think of this, a lot of the reason why Iran has been able to achieve this is because of the thing that most of us complain about all the time, social media. It's because wars are being fought in the social media space now.
Yeah.
As well as, you know, physically.
Yeah. And people realize not only are they humans too, they're actually much smarter and more competent than our leaders. The amount of Americans who believe that women in Iran are essentially slaves, not allowed to go outside. Meanwhile, one of the most educated women, or probably the most educated women on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. They have like a literacy rate that far surpasses the US. I believe it's like 99 point something, you know, and far more PhDs, far more higher education, you know, for just ordinary people. Meanwhile, we have an illiteracy rate in America that is abysmal.
Yeah.
You know, like there's been a lot of exposing of those myths. And I feel like this is actually the start of a new era. actually. I think Iran has done something like lifted this veil. It's like we've seen behind that green curtain, right? That Oz was just this little old white man, right? So they've exposed Trump, but not just Trump, like the entire establishment class has been exposed. Because let's not forget, and you know, Nick, and you and I are very much aligned on this. Like it's fuck Trump and fuck Democrats and liberal Democrats at the same time, right? Like my book, DEI and Done, which we will talk about, but you know, it really is like a book that is talking about the death of liberalism, because I always say that DEI as an industry, and I always call it an industry and not a field, because it was completely corporatized and, you know, it's part of the capitalist system. And this whole like identity politics and representation where black faces in high places and brown faces in high places were sold to us as being our heroes and saviors. And they weren't, they were careerists. So, you know, what was revealed is the death of liberalism. And, you know, I wrote this in a tweet recently.
Absolutely.
I wrote this in a tweet recently that I see the destruction, as in the dismantlement of Israel, happening a lot sooner than I had even predicted in October 2023, right? So back then I had thought that it would take 5 to 6 years. Now I'm actually thinking that we're a lot closer to it. And it's not, and basically the dismantlement of Israel is premised on the dismantlement of the US empire, because Israel is an arm of the US empire. And, you know, again, in case I need to say this for like the people in the back, the dismantlement of something doesn't mean that all the fucking people in that country are going to die, and like, you know, that we're calling for the death of all the civilians, right? When you're talking about the dismantlement of a nation, you're talking about the dismantlement of the system that upholds that nation. So really, you're speaking for the people. The dismantlement of the US empire would be very good for the US people, because now your money and your hard-earned money and tax dollars are not funding foreign wars, right? So
it's actually crazy you have to explain that. Like,
I mean, you have to, man. You have to. It's been ridiculous. Like, the kind of pushback you get for shit that's so obvious. I feel like I have to say it now. But the point I was trying to make is the dismantlement of Israel is premised on the dismantlement of the US and the US empire. And what's become really clear now is that it wasn't us finding out that conservatives or Trump or the right were the problem. All this dismantlement and illusion that is breaking is premised on the death of liberal democracy. That's what it's premised on. So it's the fact that people have opened their eyes and realized, whoa, the left and the right, this duopoly is actually one big fucking purple blob. There's no right, you know, red and blue left. And I've been saying this a lot lately too, that all these people I talk to who are liberals, I keep realizing that they confuse liberalism with socialism. So
yes.
When they talk about liberalism, they'll say dumb shit like, you know, we believe in equality. There's no such thing as equality in a capitalist state in that sense, right? So
Sabreena,
what you actually are talking about is socialism, but you hate socialism because they convinced you that socialism is communism, and communism is the devil. And communism has led to all these other countries being failed countries. Meanwhile, if you measure based on the statistics that matter, right? So again, capitalism will tell you that a country doing well, they'll look at like economy and, you know, wealth, like the wealth of the nation and the economy of like, and they'll always be looking at the top fucking 1%, right?
Yeah.
But is that how we measure a country being a good country or doing well? Like, are we measuring happiness, contentment, like people feeling peaceful, people feeling good about themselves, having a good spiritual center and connection. If you look at all those measures, you know which countries fucking have that? It's the freaking communist countries.
Yeah.
It's the socialist ones.
It works everywhere it has been tried, we say. It works everywhere we've been tried. But that's probably one of the great rants in RBN history. That was extremely big. And we might as well get into your book now because I think we already hit in a lot of the themes of it. Because I love what you mentioned regarding, because this is what I've been talking about on my channel all the time, how people confuse socialism. They think like socialism is like uber liberalism. They think like socialism is super liberalism. And
which is why they think that Mamdani is a socialist.
Exactly.
But like, how can you be a socialist if you're part of the capitalist system? Yes, you're doing some good things. Okay, like I admit that there are some good things happening. But again, we're always so fucking happy with crumbs. Well, a few crumbs are thrown our way. And it all boils down to internalized colonialism. We're so fucking we have so much colonialism internalized. When the master throws us some crumbs, we're like,
absolutely,
thank you, master.
Absolutely, wholly based. You guys see how Cuba, under the threat of the gun, who've been starved by the West, have been forced into a free market system. This is what Zoran wanted. Remember, Zoran's the guy who condemned Cuba right as the United States started ramping up their offensive. He condemned Venezuela right before Nicolas Maduro was kidnapped by the United States empire. And I'm telling you guys, any victories that you guys get in New York City, I'm glad for you guys. But I just personally do not support this devil's bargain. I don't support this nonsense where you're working with Zionist psychopaths like Jessica Tisch. You increasing the NYPD and you sicken them on pro-Palestine protests. And then it's like, look, we get free buses now. Well, like, what kind of trade is that? That's how, as you mentioned before, that's how colonized their mind is. That's how defeated the Western left has become. They're willing to sell out the global majority. They want to condemn China. They want to condemn Russia. They want to condemn Hamas in order to stay friendly with the Democratic Party. And they do that for crumbs. And that is the lack of dignity that I can't stand.
Can we talk a little bit about as well the fact that that picture of him sitting next to her at was it the Knicks game?
Oh God! Don't get me
started. And I might be pissing some people off here. I'm not really a sports person, to be honest. Okay, for like
you're not a goalie ball fan.
I'm just too much of a girl. But it's not just because I'm a girl. It's also because I'm so against capitalism, and to me, the sports industry is also part of that system. Okay, like maybe it's the bread and circus, right? And the thing is, like, maybe if we went back to the roots of it all, which came from community, like back in the day when we played sports and when people came to watch, it was like a community experience. But now it's actually a capitalist experience. It's very much a corporate experience. So we're seeing a socialist sitting next to a Zionist at a bread and circus sports game, in which they have promoted tribalism in sports so much that we've got our own fucking people setting fire to shit because they're so invested in these teams that these teams and the people in the teams and the owners of these teams and the managers of these teams are part of the fucking 1% who doesn't give a shit about them.
Yep.
Like, you're so invested in these people, in this celebrity culture, and I know you hate celebrity culture and like worship as well. Like, we're so invested in that we will set fire to our own communities because we're so illusioned by it all. We've bought into the bread and circus so much.
Yeah, I said it many times before. This man is a boon. He's a gift to the ruling class. I said it over a year ago that Zoran Mamdani is here to rehabilitate the image of genocidal Democrats when they was at their record unpopularity, to provide cover for them, like the way he refused to support a DSA primary against Hakeem Jeffries. AOC and Zoran Mamdani helped give Hakeem Jeffries power. How are these things that you guys are ignoring? You guys are ignoring it because Zoran's job is to dull your revolutionary anger. Remember that anger that you had because you saw the United States murder all those children. Now you're happy, like, look, Zoran's partying with the New York Knicks. Hey, look, Zoran Mamdani is with Jalen Brunson. Everyone's celebrating now. What happened to the anger that we just had? You guys did the job of Zoran, but go ahead, Dr. Sabreena.
I was gonna say, and it's like the music that they use. It's like using TikTok sounds to, like, get people excited about stuff. Like, did you notice? And I have to admit, I kind of fell for it a little bit myself. But when Zoran Mamdani had his, like, I think it was his inauguration, and he used Babulicious's
he's a great politician,
right? Like his Goody Red Challenger, which is like a famous social media TikTok song, and he had him come up, and it was like celebrating identity and brown people and black people, everyone together. I felt like the same way that I felt when Obama won. When Obama, yes. The inauguration of Obama gave me the same feelings, right? So I was sitting there and I was watching Mamdani's inauguration, and I could feel my soul leave my body. And I could feel myself falling for it. And it's like I had to reel myself back in, like, no. Back to your
a lot of people fall for it.
Your revolutionary spirit, man.
Yeah, he's a great politician. Don't get me twisted. Like, once again, he's a generational talent for the ruling class. The amount he's been able to dull the anger and create this feel good feeling. Everyone, I saw this tweet. There was a viral tweet on X with this socialist person. They were like, Zoran Mamdani turned New York into a Disney movie, and it had like 100,000 likes. You guys see what he's here to do? While we have record amount of homelessness, as our government is funding genocides, the NYPD is expanding. And they're cracking down on people in the subways. You got people in the subway getting their ass beat by the NYPD. We have our infrastructure that's completely falling apart. But now you guys feel good. Mm-hmm. Like, you guys see Zoran. You guys had this big Goy parade. Now everyone's feeling happy. That's his job.
I'm not gonna go to the Israel Day parade, and then everyone's like, wow, I guess he's not that bad. And then it's like, oh, but one of my representatives is going to go there. So I personally am not going to go there. But my team is going to be there. So what the fuck does that mean? You're still there, right? You're still supporting this. Like, how can you? There's so much contradiction that happens. And that's the thing. Like, that's why it's so important for us to point out the I loved something someone said in the comment section. I was like looking through, and someone called it breadcrumbs in circus.
We always got great chats. I love our community.
Yeah, and it's so brilliant. Breadcrumbs in circus, like, it's literally crumbs that they give us, and there's a circus that they show us. And we fall for it. We fall for it every time because it, like you said, it feels good. And it's not just that it feels good, Nick. It's that we're fucking tired.
Yeah.
We're exhausted. Like, how exhausted are we from like hundreds of years of this shit?
Yeah.
Like, all of our communities in solidarity, the indigenous native people, the black community, the brown Arab terrorists, like, we have all just been, it's like we're constantly being, bashed on the head. And, we get this like moment to breathe where we see one of our own on top, and we're like, okay, there's hope. Obama showed us hope. Obama.
I understand, man.
We all fell for it because we're tired.
Yeah, I get it, man. I had to keep it real with you guys, man. I'm, as a citizen journalist, as someone who care about keeping revolutionary energy, I'm here to tell you guys the truth. You can come to any conclusion that you want, because I want to address Chris here, because this is a very good faith comment here. But Nick, it is hard economic level for folks in NYC to get by. Why should we look down on folks in NYC if Mamdani can make their lives easier? Why should folks suffer till the revolution comes? For one, my response to that would be New York. The New York working class is still suffering. Mamdani is just giving you guys the illusion that they're not. Have you guys even got free buses yet? There's no rent control yet. People are still suffering. So this idea that people are not suffering now, that's part of the mirage that someone like Zoran can provide. People thought everything was becoming better under Barack Obama, as there was a record amount of medical bankruptcies. So my question I keep posing is, like, what do you guys actually get by selling out Cuba? What do you actually get by selling out to the NYPD? What do you actually get from cracking down on pro-Palestine protests? Now, I said it 1,000 times. That's why it's always weird to me. Whenever I do my due diligence, I'm an educator. I'm here to tell people what is going on here. Why do people feel the need to defend their vote to me? Someone explain it to me. Why do you guys don't have to come up to me like, hey, Nick, this is why I vote for him. No, you guys take the information I give to you guys and do whatever strategy you think is best. I'm not looking down on anyone. What I will do is call out the people who have a platform who is lying about them. Like all the people who said that Zoran Mamdani is the candidate, and we vote for him, we're going to free Palestine, we're going to fight Zionists in New York cities. That is a lie. That is not what he's doing. I told you guys, if he get elected, he's going to crack down on pro-Palestine protests. What's the first thing he did once he got in office? He made it illegal to protest against genocidal synagogues selling Palestinian land off.
And
So if you feel better if Zoran's in charge while you got a mayor that's protecting genocidal monsters selling Palestinian land, if you just want to feel better, go ahead and feel good. But that's not my job. I'm a citizen journalist, not an access journalist. I'm not a cheerleader journalist. I'm not here to make you feel better about supporting politicians. If you believe that's the best thing you can do in your life, you do that. But I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not going to bullshit you and pretend that a revolution is coming and that people's lives are going to be made better by these red, blue, incremental, tranquilizing drugs. That's my thought. But thank you for. I think it's a very good fake comment. I didn't mean to go hot at it.
I think so
What's
too.
your thought?
I don't know if you heard, but literally just yesterday, Carney, our Canadian Prime Minister, introduced a new law, and it's a new hate law. Where basically, the language makes it seem like all places of worship are going to be protected, but really it's for the synagogues. We all know that it's because they're the ones holding the real state events in
Bro,
this.
they shut down 4 blocks. They had like 4 blocks.
So now if you threaten or intimidate, which obviously if you're holding up a sign saying don't sell illegal land or free Palestine outside a synagogue, that's a form of intimidation and threatening. That is criminal now. So Carney introduced that law here in Canada.
Yeah.
And going back to, and also Carney was also a bit of a, everybody was like, whoa, Carney again, savior, great guy. He gave that stupid speech at Davos, right? Like, did you see it? Like, and he basically made it out like he's some sort of socialist. Even though he's like some like freaking finance guy, but he's a socialist now, apparently. But he said all the things that admit it was powerful. When I heard the speech, I was like, well, interesting that he's able and willing to say this out loud. But then you always have to follow up on their policies and see if their policies match their statements, and they rarely do. And going back to the comments that we're getting now, and also you saying that, look, you don't have to justify your vote to me. Mohammed al-Kurd, the Palestinian journalist, writer, author, he said that he had shared in one of his tweets something, and it's something that I've been following for many, many years of my advocacy. And all he said was, the rule is never punch down, and that is the rule that I follow. I never punch down. So I'm not gonna. And I get tons of comments just like you do. I get so many, really like good faith type of comrades who will write me comments that disagree with something I'm saying. I'm not going to get into a battle with them in the comment section.
Yeah.
Like it's because I'm not going to be punching down, on people who are already being oppressed by the system.
Absolutely.
So when we criticize politicians, people in positions of power, influencers, celebrities, people who have basically volunteered to be on the public pedestal. So if you are up there willing to get praise and attention, you should be willing to get negative attention too. It all comes in one big package.
That is very well said. You guys notice I haven't, like, that's why it's weird when these Mamdani people get defensive of me, because how many times have you guys seen me like call someone out? Like, how dare you call someone out promoting Zoran? I don't even go. I have friends. People know who they are. People like, Nick, why won't you call this person now? Like, bro, what I'm doing with my platform, I'm here to give you guys my perspective, try to educate the proletariat the best I can and try to guide them. And then you can do what you want to do with that information. I'm not here to pummel you over the head. I will talk my shit though. I will talk my shit, not calling you feel guilty after that.
Nick, someone asked in the comments, is this your wife? And I think the reason why they're saying it is because you and I agree on so much. But usually husbands and wives don't agree on everything. So that should be a reason to know, no, we're not married. But we do agree on a lot.
We're like intellectual soulmates in a way. Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's why we had to bring her back on the channel. Big shout out to Chris. I wasn't trying to get hot at you. I think your comment was very good faith. I'm not a New Yorker. I'm just struggling with your correct criticism of Mamdani and the fact that he can do some good, Nick. And what you said earlier, Dr. Sabreena, was on point because I said it 1,000 times on my channel. I feel like one of the rise of Zohran Mamdani is the failure of the socialist left in the United States for not providing another option to people. I said that many times on the channel. I feel sad. Like when I see people get dragged back into the duopoly, it legitimately makes me depressed. Like when I see people praising AOC, because a lot of people in New York feel like they had no other option. So I'm like, man, I wish we could have been there to provide you guys another party. That's why I'm trying to get serious now to build a new revolutionary party. What is to be done? Listen to what Lynn.
Do you actually think it would succeed though, Nick? I'm so skeptical about this, like I don't know if we're gonna escape the duopoly. Eventually.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I'm just saying it's a science, my friend. It requires all of us to put in our work. If you study history, it worked many times before. There's no like automatic revolution button. I don't want anyone to get it twisted. But what else are we supposed to do in our life? Twitter our thumbs as the ruling class continue to accumulate power? No, we need to start building our own structures. I'm imagining a future where we build our own government structures, building mutual aid society, feeding our people, making our people less dependent on the system. And then once we have our own government, our own institutions that is able to maintain themselves, form a militia with that said government. That's part of building for a revolution. And people will be surprised on how little amount of people you need to get this thing rolling. Most scientists, most Marxist scientists, you realize it only takes like 5%. Like once you get like 5% of the population on your side, then you get 10%. Then you're able to start organizing real events. Then you organizing food drives. Then the people are like, hold up, this party, government, whatever we just form, whatever we call it, they're showing up for me. That's when we start making breakfast programs like the Black Panthers did. They were like, holy shit, they got a breakfast program. We got militias we got self-defense classes. These are the future. Like, you guys see how far away we are from this. But imagine where we could be at. This is the point that they cannot reconcile with, Sabreena. We're not arguing with SOC Dems who still argue with organizing within the Democratic Party. You guys really spent nearly $500 million on this project of running progressive Democrats. God know how much it's been this cycle. Imagine where this movement would have been at if we had this direction of building our own movements, our own government, with those millions and millions of working class dollars that we donate to politicians. Zohran Mamdani cut an ad where he was begging people to stop donating to him. He was like, guys, I raised so much money off of working class money. I got enough to last it for the rest of the campaign. Imagine if this went towards building. Just to answer your question, I know you want to chime in. Do you have anything you want to say, Dr. Sabreena?
I was going to say that, the Black Panther Party, they were doing all this charitable work, but a huge part of that movement was education. They were funding education and decolonial education, revolutionary education, right? That kind of took us away from that liberal democracy or duopoly way of looking at things. And the thing that I wanted to say about charity, I made a video just recently about the whole NGO industrial complex, right? The NGOIC, and how NGOs actually feed capitalism. And it's very similar to the military industrial complex. And when I said that, somebody got really pissed off and they were like, oh, how are you going to compare the charity sector with the military sector? If you're going to convince people...
That was a shit lip, guaranteed. That was a Lockheed liberal. I promise you who said that.
Yeah, and they're like, charity is a good thing. Not if it's pacifying you into thinking that you've done enough.
Yeah, they're mostly just write-offs.
It's like, exactly. But what happens is like the charity sector is void of any political backbone or any. So what they're doing is they're band-aid solutioning everything. So let's raise money for the displaced refugees, refugees displaced by war. Who
Yes.
caused the war? Let's just focus on the refugees and the terrible condition they're in. But who put them in that condition? How do we actually prevent more refugees, more displacement, more dismemberment of children? Like, how do we get to the disease and not the symptom of the disease? But the charity sector doesn't want to talk about that. The charity sector doesn't want to get into advocacy because they're going to lose their funding. And when they say that, then that means they're part of the system, right? Like if you're relying on funding, you're part of the system, and you're actually perpetuating the cycle. It's like it feeds itself. The other thing is, without wars and poverty, the charity sector industry would be dead.
Yeah.
People would lose their jobs.
That's a good point.
If everyone is doing okay, which is what we want, there would not be an industry that employs all these people and makes all this money, right? So you have to think about that. And that's why the Black Panthers and the way that they did things, which was such an organic community way. And like, even when you look at Indigenous communities, like Indigenous communities in Canada, and how they organize and how truly organic it is in terms of how they give back to the land, protect the land, nurture the land. We don't think of it that way. The charity sector actually doesn't have, like, we need to decolonize the charity sector as well.
Yes. And this is what we've been preaching at Revolutionary Blackout. And I think it should be almost mandatory that people do a tour of the Hampton House. You guys know me and Rome was there last summer. And I'm supposed to be going to this Green Party convention in Chicago. I might swing by again. Because what do you guys think I'm getting these theories from? The Hampton family built a mutual aid society that is still going on to this day. You guys realize that? How many people on the left don't even highlight the work that they're doing? They have public refrigerators that give out food to the community. They have free education programs, food programs. They're doing real work to this day, and that's what we mention all the time. How, like, the difference between just engaging in charity. There are a lot of people on the left who think they're doing mutual aid, but they're not. Like, there are these people who they don't even believe in party building, but then they're like, "Oh, I did a giveaway. We have an event where I gave some clothes away." That's charity. You got to realize mutual aid is building party. But go ahead, Sabreena.
Also, with the whole giving clothes away and the whole charity sector, with, about the whole thing about, like, all the clothes that rich white people give to poor Black and brown people are polluting the lands and impacting the health of poor Black and brown people. Because, like, the shit that you're giving away is contributing to the fast fashion industry and the pollution caused by the fast fashion industry, and all the plastics that are leaking into the waters and into the air, and all the things that are thrown away or given away. Again, this is that whole, like, NGOIC where you pacify people into thinking that they're doing good work.
Yes.
But they're actually also contributing to the destruction of the planet and also the destruction of the communities they claim to care about. Also, a lot of it is so embarrassingly indignified and lacking integrity, where you give your old beat up shit to people who you think are shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like things with holes in them, like the lack of integrity. And and I always say this, like, I was at an event, on my book launch event on Saturday, and somebody asked a question about, how do we keep the momentum going for a free Palestine or a Black Lives Matter or something where we're out there, advocating for freedom and blah, blah, blah. How do we keep this up? Because it's been so long. And I said, I shared a tweet recently where, I don't know if you remember this, where I said, the difference between you and me is that your advocacy stops when the bombs stop. and my advocacy doesn't stop, because I'm not just here advocating for the lives of Black and brown people. I am advocating for living with dignity, a life of dignity for Black and brown people. So it's not just about George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, and, Black men who are surveilled and chased and shot and killed, but it's also about the Black child who watches his Black father get stopped because of the police and pushed around and treated like an unequal citizen. And their dignity is taken away.
Yes.
And we're not out here advocating for the life of dignity for these people, because it would, and what it does is it exposes how much inherent internalized colonialism we have as well, right? Where we ourselves don't treat our people equally. Like we're saying, yeah, stop the bombs. And when the bombs stop, we're like, thank you, we're alive. We can go back to being just treated like subhumans now, as long as we're alive.
That's such a very important point to make, because I think that sums up where I'm at, my position. I think that's a good way to sum up the split that I feel with the people I describe as the professional managerial class left in the United States, because I'm way more than just free Palestine. I'm justice for Palestine, dignity for Palestine. People like Bernie Sanders, the liberal Zionists, they're disgusting to me. But because Bernie, he doesn't want dignity for Palestine. He just upset that Israel is too mean and too heavy-handed on the Palestinians sometimes. But if the Palestinians ever fought for dignity, if they ever fought their criminal occupiers, those are the people that Bernie Sanders wants dead. Like if you join Hamas, he wants you dead. Mm-hmm. If you fire a shot at Israel, then you go from a worthy victim, a Palestinian that they can mourn the death of. But
and that's why they hate.
Go ahead.
That's why they hate the resistance, right? Because the resistance is fighting for dignity, self-respect. And it was the same thing with the Black Panthers. Like, why did they fucking hate the Black Panthers so much? It's because they were badass and they had a sense of like self-respect.
Yeah.
They didn't go around groveling to the white man for crumbs. And that's exactly what the resistance is doing. So the liberals amongst the Zionists, the liberal Zionists, the ones who want freedom for Palestinians, we care about coexisting. We care about Palestinians. Like they're just advocating for Palestinians not to be bombed. That's it. That's as far as their advocacy goes. And it's the same thing when it comes to a lot of the people who were advocating for Black Lives Matter at the time, right? Where it's like, oh my God, a man just got killed, on live camera. A Black man just got killed. This is completely wrong. But what about, Black fathers who are basically disparaged, and the Black family is looked down upon, and fingers are pointed that, the fact that there are broken Black families, it's the fault of the community and the culture, not the fault of generations and generations of, the legacy of enslavement, not because of the legacy of inequality and discrimination and racism, but it's something that's inherent in these cultures. These cultures are just barbaric. Yes. Brown Arab men are just inherently barbaric.
Yeah, that's
violence is in our blood and in our culture, right? So that's how they make it so that we think that it is a problem within ourselves as well. And this is why I focus so much on internalized colonialism, internalized racism, because, and I know, Nick, you get upset about these things on Twitter as well. Like, when you go off, it's like, oh, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? Like you get upset with your own people, right? And I get upset with my own people too, because sometimes I see my people like acting like idiots. And I'm like, this is internalized colonialism, guys. Like you're acting like this because you think we're terrorists and you think that Muslims deserve this treatment. But, you have to free your mind as much as you have to free your body. sadly, a lot of us, we may be physically free. And I said this recently in another interview that I gave, that, someone may look at me and say that, wow, you dress the way you want, you have an education, you live in Canada, you grew up in the UK. I'm only saying that because someone on here said that her accent sounds fake. I was born in England, but I've been in America and Canada.
How you gotta be mean to Dr. Sabreena? How is that possible?
Yeah, I can be mean to this.
How is that even possible?
But yeah, I lost my train of thought with that. Let's just move on.
You want to discuss a little bit more about your book? I know we discussed a little bit about your criticism of liberalism. I still want to cover Keir Starmer. I got that in the title, but how you doing on time, Dr. Sabreena?
I'm doing fine on time, man. I was working towards this massive book launch that I had on Saturday, and I was like super stressed, and then I managed to get some sleep the last couple of days, and today I'm like all energized for Nick.
Yeah, I'm loving this. I'm
back now. I got my sleep.
Yes.
But yeah, so I had a book launch on Saturday for my book, DEI Undone, which is basically a takedown of liberalism. It's a takedown of the DEI industry, that I call it, all the performative cooptation language. And, it's called the DEI Undone, the rise, fall, and rebirth of DEI. And basically, in the beginning, we talk about all the kind of revolutionary foundations of DEI, where there was goodwill, I think, like in the beginning, where people were like, let's build off of all the anti-racism work that's been done, and like LGBTQ plus rights, women's rights, disability rights. Let's build up off of that. And then they turned something into an acronym that really didn't need to be an acronym, because all the rest of us were freaking doing this shit anyway, right? Like, we were already doing this anti-racism, social justice work, equity work. We were already doing it because it was part of our lived experience. Growing up in England, I was born and raised in one of the most racist places, where
we'll get to that soon.
Being called a Paki, which, by the way, I always say this to people because, this whole drama happened in the UK, where a white boy was stabbed by a Sikh South Asian, two teenagers. They got into a fight, stabbed the brown Sikh kid, stabbed the white kid, and it turned into a big thing because the police didn't believe the white kid when he said that he couldn't breathe, and he died. So all the white kind of, the great replacement people, they started saying that this is our I can't breathe moment. This is our Black Lives Matter. So this is our White Lives Matter moment.
Those UK nationalists, they crack me up because, like, oh man, you guys are living the consequences of your country's imperialism for generations now. Like, you can curse your ancestors. If you're mad at anyone, be mad if you're mad at your ancestors. This is the UK British Empire coming home. This is your fucking fault. If you're upset that your country's so brown, maybe you should have stole all that goddamn gold from.
Completely. I mean, they still have all our shit in their stupid museums. I'm so anti-museum, just like I'm anti-zoo for obvious reasons. But, I hate, like, even though people assume that I'm into this stuff because I'm into art and culture and literature and all these things. But no, I don't want to go look at, my ancestral heirlooms and things that the British sold and they're keeping in these, buildings, these colonial buildings. No, I don't want to pay to look at things that were robbed off of my people. But anyway, the point I was trying to make was that, that killing spurred a lot of, white people being really upset because apparently the police officer was so worried about DEI. He was so worried about being called a racist that he let the white boy die. Now, it's a complete tragedy that this white boy died. It's a tragedy that I think he was 17 or 18 or 19, but he was young, right? That someone is telling the police that I can't breathe. I'm hurt. And the police. So this is more of a, this is a criticism of the police, exactly. Something that we've been saying all the time, defund the
We told you that the police don't protect you.
Yes, exactly. We've been saying this shit already to you, right? Defund the fucking police because they're not there to protect us. But it got twisted, and instead of them hating on the police, they started hating on DEI, they started hating on brown people, and the Sikh community was attacked because it was like, oh, this Sikh boy was carrying a knife, and in their culture they're supposed to carry a knife, and the UK government allows them to carry it. He wasn't carrying the little kirpan that, you know, Sikh people who are baptized are supposed to carry. He was carrying a real fucking knife. Okay, so he is allowed to do one the thing that I try to explain to people, Black, brown, indigenous people are allowed to make mistakes. They are allowed to be terrible, right? Like, we are allowed to have individuals within our communities who don't represent the whole entire community. But it's always turned into a symbol of the entire community.
Exactly.
So the Sikh community was thrown under the bus. And then a lot of other people, even Muslims, turn around and were like, you know, disparaging the Sikh community. And I was like, guys, to the white man, we're all fucking Pakis. We're all Pakis. They can't tell the difference between an Indian and a Pakistani and an Arab and an Afghan. Like,
Yeah.
the racist hates us all. So us hating each other and fighting with each other is exactly what they want. Like, they don't give a shit. And this is all like that same internalized colonialism where you're trying to get validated from the master. Master, I'm the better one. I'm the good immigrant. I'm not the violent one.
Yeah.
I'm not like those violent terrorists out there. I condemn this killing. And I think it is a problem within that community. I don't think they should be allowed to do this, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, I digress.
No, yeah, the UK is a crazy state. I think that's a great segue. Since you can stick around, we're gonna do the Keir Starmer segment because I can't clickbait my people. I have that in the title, so let's cover Keir Starmer. We're gonna have Dr. Sabreena with us to help us break the story down. You guys know I've been enjoying every second of this. As someone who's been covering Keir Starmer, roasting Keir Starmer for the last 2 years. And this is just another example of the Zelensky curse. Remember when they keep saying that Putin must go, fam? This is the end of Vladimir Putin. Do you guys remember that? In 2022, 2023? They're like, we promise you that this Russian invasion of Ukraine will mark the end of the Russian government. Meanwhile, how many prime ministers have you guys been through? Because if you was to ask the British people, one there's like a lot of reasons why they hate Starmer. We will get to the genocide part soon. But one of the reasons is the cost of living. Hey, dipshit, why do you guys think the cost of living is so high? Maybe because they cut themselves off from Russian gas and they started buying expensive United States LNG. That's why energy costs for UK families skyrocketed ever since the start of the special military operation. And then people are wondering why these prime ministers in the UK keep being recycled out like garbage, because they all have the same policy. Just like the next person would have the same policy. Never-ending war is good for the elites. They're making money, Sabreena. Meanwhile, the average person in the UK, they are starving. They are paying out of the pocket for energy costs. In Germany, they're cutting pensions. So you're losing your pension and your retirement benefits because of Zelensky. And they wondering why Friedrich Merz, the prime minister of Germany, they're wondering why he one of the most unpopular leaders in the world. Maybe because you're sending people's pensions to Nazis in Ukraine. So I had to bring this up first because the media, they were doing their best to avoid this part. Obviously, they're doing their best to avoid the genocide part. But I had to bring this up again because how many of these prime ministers have we seen gone? How many of these government coalitions have we seen collapse all over Europe? It's supporting Israel and supporting never-ending war against Russia and supporting NATO and Ukraine. It's a bad policy. Now, Sabreena, I want to get your thoughts, your broad thoughts on these prime ministers, because this is what a failed state looks like. And it's weird to me that these Western chauvinists, these people who believe in the sanctity of liberal democracy, they will see this instability, Sabreena, and they will use this as a mark of a good thing. They will say, hey, look how we go through all these prime ministers. Isn't the fact that our prime ministers, the fact that they can be replaced, isn't that a sign that we live in a healthy democracy?
I wouldn't even the first thing I would say to that is that, yeah, that applies to like elections happening regularly and people getting replaced by elections, but not freaking resignations and
Yeah.
leaving because they're embarrassed because they know. And let's face it, resignations only happen when you know something bad is about to go down and you need to get out of there quickly, or you're being forced to resign because it's either you resigning or you being ousted or you being like kicked out, right? So I have to say though, Nick, and I know that we hate him, right? This human rights lawyer who is responsible for some of the worst human atrocities,
Yes.
atrocities that have happened in history in the last, like under his watch and with his protection, and also his alienation and demonization of people who are speaking up against it. Like, look at the group of kids who are still in jail. Like, I forgot what they're called. The something
Palestine Action.
Yeah.
Yeah, Palestine Action.
Yeah, the Palestine Action Group, and how like that is an indictment of,
yeah, and that was Keir Starmer. Like
that was all Keir Starmer, right?
Yeah.
So this human rights lawyer, so-called, is one of the worst, I would say. I mean, he's up there. He's up there with some of the worst British prime ministers we've had.
Yeah, I think he's the most unpopular prime minister ever since they started recording it. So
Yeah.
that's
It
his
makes sense.
legacy.
And I think it's because people have become a bit more political now too, or like a little bit more politically conscious. People have become now because of the genocide. And that's one positive that's happened in the last couple of years. Somebody shared the other day that they were on a train in the UK and they were really like moved by the fact that there was a bunch of teenagers on this train and they were all talking about socialism. And, they were Gen Z, right? So like the fact that we've got Gen Zs talking about socialism when people from our generation, Nick, like socialism, like communism, was like a complete, like it was misunderstood. So it was like no one talked about it. It wasn't even that they were demonizing it. They just didn't think it was an option. But
Right.
what I was going to say is that I may have felt somewhat happy about his resignation because I hate him so much. But who's he going to be replaced by?
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that here. Hold that thought, Dr. Sabreena. Hold that thought, because we're gonna get to that very soon. Because obviously he's gonna be replaced by another Goy slave, and that's their new strategy in the UK. How is it not obvious to people that they have these prime ministers that they take office and they do a speed run to advance the agenda of the Epstein regime, of the Zionist genocidal class, and then they use these resignations as a way to alleviate some revolutionary anger among the populace. Oh, okay, you guys hate Keir Starmer? He's going to resign. Oh, you guys hate Liz Truss? Oh, okay, she's about to resign. They're like, oh, okay, let's start the process all over again. Let's have a new prime minister. So, guys, this is by design, and that's why I was making the point I did in the beginning about how it's crazy how people think this is the peak of what democracy is supposed to look like. A country that was ran by one party for like 75 years. Essentially, it was a one-party dictatorship, and then they finally started let Labor win, and then those Labor leaders was the same as the Tory leaders, supporting George Bush's war, Tony Blair. That's when they said, oh, okay, we let the other party win now. And then their job is to completely kill any left or revolutionary energy in the party. Then they become massively unpopular after shifting to the right, then rinse and repeat. This is how they use the concept of liberal democracy to pacify the public and to give them illusion that there is going to be change. So I'm glad you made that point. I didn't mean to cut you off, Dr. Sabreena, but trust me, we're going to show who the next favorite to become prime minister is. Here's his speech. Keir Starmer gets emotional. He wasn't crying over the Palestinian children that he murdered. He just said that his career went bye-bye.
And when I leave the biggest job in the country, I shall spend more time on the most important job, being the best husband I can. Has been a rock by my side through good times and bad.
Fuck out of here.
Being the best dad I can to my beautiful children.
Oh, it would be great. Wouldn't it be great if the Palestinians that you murdered had the right to go home and be good fathers to their children that your government murdered? Who is falling for this goy slop? These people are ugly Hollywood actors. That's what politics is.
But do you see how much like do you see how much like humanity is afforded to white people? Like
Exactly.
them being fathers and mothers, and like this speech is so wrapped up in his identity as a family man.
Exactly.
Because the whole thing is packaged in that way so that we can forget everything he's done to like harm other families and to destroy other families, like other Black and brown families. So, and I hate the fact that no Black or brown person is given this amount of humanity, allowed to be human in this way.
Dude, they just casually talk about how Israel has the right to murder the entire families of people who they consider to be enemy combatants. The BBC would do a report like, yeah, they launched a drone attack at a Hezbollah leader and they killed his wife and his 2 children. This is a great victory for us. Like they talk about the Ayatollah in Iran. They just brag about murdering his father. They just brag about murdering their families of their enemies.
Excellent point.
And then they turn around like, oh my God, I miss my family, my kid. I'm going to be a good family man. Get the F out of here. How did this not make you guys sick? But you guys know the script he was giving to help his party and to help his image. Hey, Keir, we need to go out there and cry for us. Show them that you're a human and not just a robot designed to implement our agenda. This guy is a complete scumbag.
Good times and bad.
Look at this fucker.
And being the best dad I can to my beautiful children, who are my pride and my joy.
People don't hate these people enough.
Thank you very much.
So this is who Keir Starmer is. It couldn't happen to a better guy because this is political malpractice. A lot of people on the right, and I found this clip because someone on the right took it and used it for their agenda. They posted some fake news. They're like, Keir Starmer tells people if they oppose his immigration agenda, he can get out of the country. No, that's not what he said. You got to realize that this video is in response of people in his own party who was upset with him for pushing these anti-Semitism bullshit laws that is cracking down on free speech in the UK. He directly implemented fascism in the UK where they are arresting doctors for opposing genocide. And all the people who were concerned about this was his response to the party.
If you don't like that, if you don't like the changes that we've made, I say the door is open and you can leave.
Go back to your own country. That's basically what he's saying.
Yep, and people
like
definitely
the same words of all the far right racists. You know, everything we've heard all these years.
Exactly.
This is the political version of it. Go back to your own country. We don't need you anymore.
Exactly, Doctor. That's on point. Let's play against a short clip.
If you don't like that, if you don't like the changes that we've made, I say the door is open and you can leave.
And they left her bitch ass, didn't they? Now you crying. Who's tough now? This is what he said in 2023. 24? I think it was like 2 years ago he said this speech. And it lived rent-free in my mind. I'm like, you wait, motherfucker. So you got to see his job the same way he was designed to infiltrate the Jeremy Corbyn Labour Party and to promote anti-Semitism in order to root out people who supported Palestine. His job was to take a Labour Party that was given power after the Tories failed their people and to shift it hard to the right and tell anyone who has a conscience to leave the party. And that's what led to his massive collapse. And this is an important point. This is another reason. You already mentioned this. This is another reason why Keir Starmer lost, because despite how crazy the UK is going, I've seen the post, the UK populace despise Israel now. Why do you guys think they have to implement fascism? Don't you think they want to give the illusion that they're a liberal democracy? If the populace is obedient to the genocidal aims of the ruling class, they will give you all the rights in the book. Like if you support the war.
Can I just say related to this?
Go ahead.
I'll say related to this because I can't stay for too much longer, but
absolutely, I'll let you go.
Because it's connected to what's happening in the UK. And the fact that all these, I mean, one of the most famous doctors who lost her job in the UK is Dr. Rahma, as you know. And, you know, they started calling her the Jewish supremacy doctor because she was talking about Jewish supremacy a lot and pointing it out. And all the UK magazines and like all the hit pieces, and I mean like every UK newspaper, right, left, right, all of them were completely like disparaging her as this anti-Semite doctor who needs to be removed. And so, you know, she's now fighting the entire system, the medical kind of like industry and the political, she's fighting everyone, right, on her own. So, but what she did was open the door to a conversation that not many people were comfortable having, which is the conversation about Jewish supremacy. And so I made that a very important part in my book. There's an entire chapter that talks about Jewish supremacy, Jewish exceptionalism, white supremacy, and how they're tied together. And, you know, so the book has a lot to do with because I lost my job in January of 2024. Last time I came on, that's what we had spoken about, because I had just lost my job and you had invited me and I was sharing my experience of having been this outspoken academic and advocate, public sociologist, and I was celebrated in my workplace. And then October 7th happened and I continued doing all the exact same things I had been doing for you know, my entire career. But now I was being accused of anti-Semitism. I was being attacked by Zionists. There were emails and complaints coming into the college. I lost my job. I was ousted, and I decided to write this book because I wanted to bring attention to how the DEI is weaponized to protect a community that is actually white. You know, that's actually not really doesn't really belong. You know, when we talk about equity deserving groups, equity denied groups, marginalized people, from which fucking angle are Jews marginalized?
Dude, it's the greatest scam that's ever been committed on humanity.
From which fucking angle? and I say Jews here because right now I am talking about Jews and not Zionists, because in my book, something that I explain when it comes to Jewish supremacy is very similar to white supremacy, where a white person who is an anti-racist white person who is actively trying to fight racism also benefits from white supremacy, also functions within a system of white supremacy that protects them. And that's why they can go out there and say, Black Lives Matter, and fight and be anti-racist and not really have the same attacks and smear campaigns and lose their job and all that stuff, because they're protected within a white supremacist system, because they've got privileges, because they've got white privilege, right? So you could be a good human being who fights racism, but still have white privilege and still be functioning within a system of white supremacy. It doesn't mean you are a white supremacist, but you benefit from it. So when I talk about Jews in the context of Jewish supremacy, what I explain in this book is that whether you are an anti-Zionist Jew or you're a Zionist Jew, you benefit from Jewish supremacy. You benefit from this system that protects Jewish people more than any other group. So a Muslim person can go into their workplace and say that they were victims of Islamophobia and anti-Muslim hatred, and because of everything that's happening in Palestine, they were called a terrorist, they were called a Hamas supporter. But they're not going to lose a Jewish person is not going to lose their job. A Jewish person is going to be protected because anti-Semitism matters more. We care more about anti-Semitism because of the legacy of the Holocaust. And the thing that I want people to understand is the Holocaust is one incident among many genocides, many Holocausts. But even the fact, have you noticed, Nick? Holocaust, when you type it in your phone, it gets capitalized.
Interesting.
When you type Holocaust anywhere, it gets capitalized because it's trying to tell you that there was only one Holocaust, the Holocaust. So they've taken over the term Holocaust. That's why they're so upset when someone says what's happening in Palestine is a Holocaust. We're not even allowed to say that it's a Holocaust. But it technically comes under the exact definition of a Holocaust. But we're not allowed to say that because that's anti-Semitism. So what this book does is it really breaks this idea down in terms of explaining Jewish supremacy, not in a bite-sized tweet type of way, because people like Dr. Rahman, when they talk about it, they mean the same thing. They're talking about the same thing, that Jews are protected within the system. A Jewish doctor that says that I should have killed more babies. I think it was a Jewish doctor who works in the medical sector, was an IDF soldier, said I should have killed more babies, still has his job. But Dr. Rahman, who said Jewish supremacy is a problem, has lost her job and license. So what does that say about Jewish supremacy and us functioning within a system that privileges and protects one group more than another group? And how much it mimics white supremacy, how aligned it is to white supremacy. And another thing that really brings out this insidious nature of this whole idea of the weaponization of anti-Semitism and how we're not even allowed to talk about Jewish supremacy. Do you know that we actually are completely okay to talk about Hindu supremacy? So a lot of people have been talking about Hindu nationalism, the Modi government, and how Hindu supremacy is a cancer and it's a problem. I don't see anyone being cancelled for that. Yes, there's been backlash, but to this extent?
Liberals criticize Christian nationalism all the time, but they don't criticize Christian Zionism. Me and you, same page as always.
So why is it that there's only one religion that we cannot talk about when we talk about nationalism and supremacy or extremism? Like, there's only one religion out there that is protected to this extent. And then the other thing that this book does is it highlights something that, again, people are not familiar with. In Canada, 98% of Jews self-identify as white. They are white, 98%.
I've been saying this, fam. I've been saying this.
and you know the number in America is like 92 or 94%, something like that, right?
I've been saying this.
So you are telling us that you're white, but then you're also telling us you're not white. You self-identify as white, but then you're saying that no, we're not white people. We don't fall under the white supremacy.
They're white when it's convenient for them.
This is the most obvious pick and choose. And I said this in a tweet one time, that it's the only race that you can dip in and out of when you feel like.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because you can't dip in and out of blackness. You can't dip in and out of being a brown person, being a racialized person. But as a Jewish person, they can dip in and out of whiteness. No one else can dip in and out of whiteness. And if you can ever dip into whiteness, it means you're fucking white, actually. because a black person can never dip into whiteness.
Yeah.
Effectively, right?
You're absolutely spinning right now. What a great rant that was. Yeah, they take on.
And so I talk about all of this shit in my book, DEI Undone.
I gotta buy that book. We gotta get that damn book, fam. We definitely got that damn book, fam. This is exactly what I've been saying. This is why we get along so well. I told the left to fuck off a long time ago with this worship of Jewish feelings, because when you criticizing the United States left, it's commonplace. They get uncomfortable with you simply saying the word Jew. Oh, you can't say Jew? What the fuck you talking about? I got canceled. I got in trouble. I was like, dude, I draw a hard line in the sand for people who, in the middle of a genocide, being sponsored by synagogues and these people, focusing on on Jewish feelings and engaging in Jewish supremacy themselves. So you're on point. We got to buy the book. But I already took like 90 minutes of your time. I appreciate you being generous.
I had so much fun with you, Nick. That's why
Yeah,
I
it flew
stayed
by.
a lot. I stayed a lot longer than I know that we talked about, but it's because I always have so much fun talking to you. It's like chilling with my bro.
Yeah.
We'll do this again soon, and thank you for having me on. And yeah, just to your watchers and listeners, buy my book. And it's on my it's on the website, deiundone.com. So just go on there and order it. And I also talk about white women, which nobody likes either.
Well, I talk about that chapter.
I talk about white women being some of the most dangerous, groups out there, and how they uphold the system of white supremacy single-handedly, with their white tears and white fragility, and demonizing Black and brown boys and saying that I'm scared and I'm in fear. So there are a lot of things in this book that are uncomfortable. Like people are uncomfortable having these conversations, but as an academic, and that as an academic, this book is packed full of fucking evidence and sources, and I've backed that shit up.
Yeah. Make sure you guys follow Dr. Sabreena.
Yep, and you can follow me on all my social media platforms. It was so nice chatting with you, Nick, as always.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Dr. Sabreena, ladies and gentlemen, author of DEI Undone. We can chop it up for hours. That 90 minutes flew by. Kept her a little bit longer than I planned, but holy based. Like, you guys know there's not many guests where I just sit back like, holy fuck, they're cooking. I'm usually the one in the kitchen. I'm usually the one cooking. She was like, I got this, Nick. I got this, fam. What a great guest. That's why it's been a while since I had Dr. Sabreena on, but we definitely will bring her back. Especially when I need a rant buddy. Like, she's a great rant buddy to bring on. Let's finish this segment up. Let me play this clip again, just so I have like a coherent segment I can clip. Here's Keir Starmer playing stupid games, winning stupid prizes. This is the man who told people in the Labour Party that if you oppose genocide, you can always leave the party. And now they had a record mandate, fam. They won the largest Labour majority ever, a historic mandate after generations of Tories dominating, because his job was to destroy any left movement that was developing in the UK, to destroy the left in the Labour Party, to shift it far to the right in genocide, and to bring the left to heel. This is why I'm rooting for our brother George Galloway. I was on the show multiple times. We need George Galloway to be prime minister. That's what I want to fucking see. He's like outlawed from the UK. He's like in exile. But he announced that he's going to run for something today. But I really hope like the George Galloway UK left can really, because the Greens, they started speaking out against NATO. They started becoming extremely anti-Zionist. We will see how things. I'm not as involved on the UK left on the ground, but I'm just rooting for them because they had a big game because of this victory. By this massive defeat of Keir Starmer in the last election. A lot of people are rightfully concerned about how this would lead to the rise of reform and Nigel Farage. But I saw numbers today. I'm looking for this tweet. I think this is it. Is this it? Big shout out to Adam here. Adam, this is what is important. Look, only 5% of Labor voters who left went to reform. 32% of Labor voters are now voting with Greens and Lib Dems. So there's a lot of narratives going on about how Keir Starmer and his party's falling is bad because it may lead to the rise of the far right. Apparently, that is not what's... Well, the far right is becoming more powerful, but the collapse of the Labour Party is actually awakening a real left in the UK, and I'm rooting for them. Once again, I'm not as in tune or on the ground with a lot of UK left, but I got a soft spot for Jeremy Corbyn, even though he fucked up a lot. He's not perfect. We all not perfect. Jeremy Corbyn fucked up on a lot of things, but I'm rooting for that faction of the left to gain power because the UK is, as I mentioned, a failed state. So Keir Starmer messed up when he told people to leave the party. If you don't like it, you can leave. That is exactly what people did. Yeah, don't get me. I see the UK Greens. They got a lot of work to do. I seen recently, and I covered on the channel how the UK Greens used to be extremely pro NATO, and that's why I didn't fuck with them. But apparently they're walking that back. So I'm not in the UK. I'm not in a position to tell these people what, but I really want to see a UK left that rejects NATO, which they're apparently doing. That's part of this big coalition that they're forming now, is that they're finally starting to become critical of NATO. So that's a good thing. So yeah, the Greens, we should be very skeptical of them, the UK Greens. But based on what I hear, and this from my homies, they're making improvements. We will see if that bores fruit. But they was a big victory of this Labor self-imposed collapse by Keir Starmer. And he was the one who promoted the mass censorship of Palestine Action, labeling them a terrorist organization. And now there are these Palestine Action activists that are getting around 15 years in prison for opposing their government genocide. So Keir Starmer, who funded and enabled genocide, law-abiding citizen, according to the UK. But the people, the teenagers in Palestine Action, the grandmothers that they arrested as well, they are considered hardened criminals under Keir Starmer's UK, because Keir Starmer, just like the rest of the West, turned the UK into a full-blown fascist country because he openly admitted that he had family in Israel. He said that out loud. He's like, yeah, of course I have loyalty to Israel because my wife is Jewish, so my kids are Jewish. I have Jewish family in Israel. And this is what he was saying. This man who was a human rights lawyer, he was explaining how Israel has the right to engage in mass starvation and the use of collective punishment. But if you was an activist, you was to call Keir Starmer out for being wrong on international law, they would deem you a terrorist. They will take down your ex-post. They would go after you like they did Dr. Rameh.
I'm very clear. Israel does have that right to defend herself, and Hamas bears responsibility.
A siege is appropriate, cutting off power, cutting off water.
Well, I think that Israel does have that right.
So Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of the UK, making an argument that Israel has the right to engage in collective punishment, which is a war crime. Siege warfare, a war crime against a stateless people. So you guys realize that the people that they're arresting in the UK, they consider them terrorists, but here's Keir Starmer speaking out against international law, which makes the rest of his statement even more ridiculous.
Cutting off power, cutting off water.
Well, I think that Israel does have that right. It is an ongoing situation. Obviously, everything should be done within international law.
Collective punishment and cutting off electricity and water is against international law. You guys see the gaslighting that Keir Starmer did to the UK population? Who I am not punching down at the UK population. The UK is just like Japan, actually, where they have these sellout leaders who are slavish to Israel. But polls show that Japanese people can't stand Israel. The same in the UK. I was actually shocked when I saw a recent poll that showed the UK, it was like 66, like 2/3 of the people strongly against the state of Israel. So because the people turned against the state of Israel, that's why you implement fascism. As I said before, they would love to give the illusion that they're not a fascist state. You guys think they wouldn't want to say that? It's because the population is against you that you have to implement fascism and you have to arrest protesters. And then this dipshit will then turn around and tell you that Vladimir Putin is an authoritarian. Whatever the fuck that means. If you was to give a definition to this fake word that they love to use, authoritarianism, wouldn't you define it as a government that has gone completely rogue from the wishes of their people? Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, Claudia Sheinbaum as well is supported by their people. If you are historically unpopular like Keir Starmer, Friedrich Merz, Donald Trump, and every single member of Congress in the United States, how can you call another country authoritarian when you are weaponizing the police state in order to keep your population in line? It's the kind of bullshit and nonsense that I even hear people who call themselves on the left repeat. Oh, I don't like Russia because they're authoritarian. Ask these SOC Dems and these NATO leftists. I promise you, I did it many times. They just block me when I do it. Ask them to define what authoritarian means. When they say that China is authoritarian, when they say Russia is authoritarian, it's a propaganda term that means nothing. But if I was to define it, it shows that you guys are the authoritarians, not your enemies. Thank you for this. Our comments are great. I wish I could read more. Look at these polls. This is the height of a failed democracy. But as I mentioned with Dr. Sabreena, Westoids, the retards in the West, they will tell you that this is an example of a functioning democracy. Because don't you see how unpopular our leaders are? We can replace our unpopular leaders. Look at how great our democracy is. Will we ever get a leader that is actually liked by people? No. We're not going to have none. That's not possible. It's not possible to defeat capital. It's not possible to defeat the Rothschilds. But don't you like that we switch them out sometimes? Yeah, Westards, whatever you want to call them. You gotta know, I don't think like anyone in the West. I'm an American, but I don't even consider myself. The way I think is inherently different, even from people who call themselves leftists. Like the Bernie Sanders, you guys seen the difference between my ideology and the Ro Khanna's? Where Ro Khanna believed the United States fights for the good of humanity? These are the Westoids, the Westards, whatever you want to call them. They believe that the UK, like AOC, like, well, I don't want the socialism of Cuba. I don't want authoritarian socialism like Nicolas Maduro. I want a socialism like the UK. That's literally what she said. Look it up. We want socialism like Sweden, one of the largest arms importers in the world. And then people are like, Nick, why you always diss the left? This is not my fucking people, man. Just like Dr. Sabreena said, these are the same people who believe it's a socialist cause to champion DEI. I was like, fuck DEI. Niggas don't like DEI. DEI benefits white women. Look up the studies. Studies show that DEI benefits white women, not us. Then but you got leftists like, we gotta stand for DEI. This is the Jamal Bowmans, the Cori Bush. That was Cori Bush. She talked about, oh, Donald Trump is getting rid of DEI. Fuck you. And then they tie that shit to us. And then people are like, man, don't you know the socialists? They're all woke and they support DEI. That is literally what Dr. Sabreena was just talking about. They tie this shit to us. And we had nothing to do with none of this nonsense. We had nothing to do with none of this Jewish supremacy nonsense. But that's merely mouth Keir Starmer. Like, Israel has the right to have these billboards. Remember, the UK hates Israel. They just live in a capitalist, authoritarian dictatorship. They would say Iran is a dictatorship. Fam, you live in a dictatorship of capital, bro. Like, you have Jewish groups that openly brag about rigging your elections, and then you be like, I think Iran is an authoritarian monarchy. Westoids are so fucking dumb. When you get older and you decolonize your mind, you realize that. And then these same people have the nerve to try and make fun of other people's IQ. Some bullshit that they made up. But they're fucking slack-jawed idiots who have no idea how the world works. They just ingest their goy slop, Disney Plus bullshit. They watch these Hollywood movies made by Jewish supremacists. And they think that's how the world works. You goddamn right. Nick is thank you, son. We love it. You goddamn right. which is why I'm blacklisted by the Bernie Media Industrial Complex, by the way. There's nothing more scary. There's nothing scarier to the white liberal, the white socialist in the United States than a black tanky. Bro, the amount of coke, and you guys can see how racist the Labor Party is, because despite the fact that Keir Starmer is a mass murderer who supports genocide, they keep writing these propaganda posts. Dude, these propaganda posts are pure cringe. The BBC and UK liberals are trying to rewrite history in real time. I've seen a few chats that reference this. So I'm gonna show you guys like the post where people are like, I can't believe the UK did this to Keir Starmer. He's such a decent man. The same goddamn playbook that they just said about Joe Biden. Remember when they said that about Joe Biden, the butcher of Gaza, the guy who blocked war crimes report that his own staff made, the guy who covered up the fact that Israel murdered Shireen Abdul-Akleh and countless other journalists. And then at the end of the day, after he dropped out, they were like, America did Joe Biden wrong. Joe Biden is a decent man. Joe Biden is a decent, great man. Don't you know he's a decent war criminal? That was even Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden is my good friend. AOC giving him walks in the park. Do you guys remember the photo ops with him she's holding Joe Biden's hand, giving him walks in the park? They're trying to do the same thing to Keir Starmer. This gaslighting bullshit. The Keir Starmer I know is decent. He is compassionate. He is kind. He is thoughtful. He is driven by a deep sense of public service, by duty, and by a belief that politics should be about improving people's lives rather than advancing personal ambition. Jesus Christ, look at this ratio. Way worse than I remember when I first saved this tweet. I thought, Jesus Christ. I'm glad that these people are at least being called out. Dude, this ratio is insane. Let me zoom in on this for the people who understand what this means. 18,000 comments, only 6,000 likes on 1.7 million views. Fam, I know you're not all on X, not on Twitter, but that is a fucking ratio. If I seen one. Let's see what the people say. Bro, there's a coordinated plan to try to rehabilitate Keir Starmer's reputation by Labor Party people. And they are all getting destroyed on Twitter right now because of this. Yeah, he supported a genocide. And how can you describe these people that praise Keir Starmer despite him butchering Arabs? How can you describe them as anything else other than Jewish supremacists? How can you describe them as anything else other than just plain racist? That they can see these mass murderers and then they still like, well, he's a decent man. Joe Biden's a decent man. Look at how they talk about their enemies. Look at how they talk about Putin. Look how they accuse Mao and other people of being mass. They talk about other people like their enemies because they are their enemies. Because they value their lives. But they're okay with Henry Kissinger. They're okay with Western war criminals. Because they don't value the lives of their enemies. So whenever you go along and you say that Joe Biden is a decent guy, whenever you believe that Democrats is a party that you should organize in, despite the bodies that they're responsible for, that's you engaging in Jewish supremacy, white supremacy, whatever you want to call it. I think it's both, to be honest. Because never in a million years will you guys be okay with these mass butchers murdering blonde hair, blue-eyed Westerners. And honestly, that statement not even that true, to be honest. Because they were silent when Israel murdered Americans. That thought is a work in progress. So you know how wild it is that they were trying to paint this guy as a good person. Here's my friend Lexi. And anyone who's a Palestinian, anyone in Iran, anyone in Syria, all these people who are victims, their people are victims of Israeli war crimes, you should be offended. Every single post of these people trying to rewrite Keir Starmer and his legacy, all these people pretend that he's anything other than a barbaric war criminal who should be locked the fuck up for the rest of his life after what he's did. That's showing you, that's whenever they say that, they are telling you to your face that they do not value the lives of the enemies of the Jews. If you make the Jews mad, your life means nothing. So as Lexi explained, I'm really offended by these Brits who keep saying they don't know why he's hated. Fuck off, you racist cunts. This is going to be a rated R show today. We got a dirty mouth today. Here's another one. This is probably one of the most cringeworthy ones. And I read a few posts from this Sam guy who's pretty much in shambles over his favorite genocidal Jewish supremacist losing power. Look at this garbage. Look at this goy slop they're feeding us. If Keir Starmer does resign, history will look back on his reign and scratch his head on why the hell he was so hated. On paper, he probably delivered more to the working class British people in such a short time than any prime minister for decades. For one, that doesn't mean shit. That's like saying that I'm the most pro working class United States president in the modern age. Doesn't mean fucking shit. And obviously that's nonsense. They explain NHS waiting list fallen, worker rights improved. What if the workers criticize Israel though? What about the workers who was fired from their jobs for criticizing Israeli genocide? What about Dr. Rameh and all the doctors who was fired? Were their worker rights improved? I don't think so. Rare operators nationalized. This is how you know you scratching at the bottom of the barrel for things to praise Keir Starmer for. Improved relations with the EU? The fuck that had to do with anything? And improved UK's global reputation? I'm gonna be honest, fam. This was the exact moment I stopped fucking reading his post. This man said with a straight face that Keir Starmer improved the UK's global reputation. Do you know how desperate you had to be to bring that up? And by the way, the UK and all the governments who enabled genocide in Israel couldn't be more despised by the world. The UK couldn't have lost any more global standing. And they have, just like the United States, isolated themselves by engaging in harsh sanctions against Russia that the global South doesn't support. India doesn't support it. They're trying to escalate against China. Bro, the global majority is against you. Yeah, that's, once again, just pure retardation, pure coping, British cope bullshit. Bro, imagine saying that. So to be honest, that's the exact moment I stopped reading his tweet, and that's the moment we're going to stop reading his tweet. When you say that he improved his global reputation, now how you know you're just a government shill. Once again, improved relations with the EU. Who gives a fuck? Didn't the UK vote in referendum to leave the EU? Brexit? They don't give a fuck about the EU. Here's Dr. Rameh, who we mentioned many times on this stream already, with Dr. Sabreena, who was a victim of Keir Starmer's fascism, being charged by the state for standing against murderous Jewish supremacists. So calling out genocide will get you targeted by the state, locked up, and your life ruined. So here she is. Correction, Starmer is a bad man, a treacherous man. Starmer will be remembered for breaking every pledge he made on taxes, welfare, farmer, immigration, and the NHS, for cutting winter fuel payments for our pensioners, for the I didn't even scratch the surface on the Epstein-Mandelson disaster. We covered it on the channel before. That was another giant moment for when he lost faith of his people. The two-tier policing and jailing of nationals for words on social media posts while pedophiles walk free, for spending billions of dollars on the taxes to Ukraine. So once again, Dr. Rame and all the pro-Palestinian people in my orbit, you guys see how they call out NATO? They call out the war against Ukraine, the war supporting Ukraine against Russia because Ukraine provides tech to Israel. You can't be pro-Palestine unless you call out the NATO left and the NATO war machine. There's another reason why they despise her. Stop sending our taxes to Nazis, you murderous psychopaths. Sending weapons to Israel so they can murder Palestinians, prosecuting protesters as terrorists. But the list goes on and on. We covered the digital ID push. They calling for a full-blown censorship of the internet because they're like, we're going to ban kids under 16. We're going to give them bedtimes. They do that to trick dumbasses. Because if they package your fascism as protecting the children, you know what you have to do after that? You then have to prove that you're not a child. If you're an adult on the internet, then you got to upload your ID to prove that you're above the age of 16. Oh, it's past 9 p.m. and you got to watch YouTube? Here, send a photo of your ID, you grown-ass man. You guys see how they use protecting the children as if they give a fuck about that? As an excuse to expand government power is never a good idea. Putting Israel first and not Britain, not the British people, not British interests. We should get rid of every British politician who still calls this criminal a good man. He deserves the Hague. May he never know peace. That's the response. You guys see how these labor dipshits, their party is going to be done forever now. They're never going to recover from this because the few Labor MPs that are left, they're dying on the hill of defending Keir Starmer. And they're going to defend his replacement, who's another Zionist psychopath. Here he is, Andy Burnham, who's apparently like the favorite to replace Keir Starmer. Here he is.
I think we need to now reach out and we need to show that we are listening to people across the board, including in the community. It is clear that when we went into the last election, relationships were damaged. As leader of the Labour Party, I would make it my business to put those relationships right. And as a start of a 10, I can say tonight that the first foreign visit I would do as leader of the Labour Party would be to Israel to show that message from the very start.
So, at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter. I think it's good for the soul for us to dance on the grave of these corrupt politicians, but we also have to maintain the reality that even though Keir Starmer is facing humiliation and resignation, it's not going to change the dynamic of the UK government. They will still be goy slaves to Israel, and they will still fund Nazis in Ukraine and wage war with Russia. Isn't it great? Western democracy, replacing one Jewish supremacist slave with another. This is the democracy they want you to uphold as the best democracy in the world. Complete and utter rubbish. So with that said, let's read some super chats, and then we can begin to wrap up. I'm getting tired. I'm a lot of ranting today. There are a lot of Keir Starmer on the timeline. All right, let's read some super chats when we get out of here. Look at Bree doing her damn thing. Elon Musk Ro Khanna debate. I want to see that. I think Ro Khanna would destroy Elon Musk in a debate, even though I handled Ro Khanna like with nothing. Ro Khanna was easy as hell to dismantle his ideology. All right, let's read some super chats and let's get out of here. Check out RTSG. Yeah, they're the homie. I think we're friends on X. Who funds the fake Western U.S. left? Also, Chris Hedges called China and East Germany fascist. Thank you for the super chat. 499 lawns are fun. Yeah, RTSG is the homie. I would like to see the comments by Chris Hedges. Thank you for $2, Comrade Cranky. Free Palestine, free Lebanon. Thank you for the 199 lawns are fun. True, but that says Stalin's GDP rivaled the United States. I read this one before. Yeah. Thank you for this, my tanky comrade. Mark, thank you for super chat. Nick is my tanky comrade. ML is the only way we will succeed. Yeah, Dr. Sabreena brought it today, didn't she? Big shout out to Dr. Sabreena. Lindsey, please read in an old-timey Southern accent. Bro, Lindsey Graham been in straight coat mode for the last 48 hours. Do you guys know that he won re-election? Bro, American voters are pure goy slaves. Liz Truss was the one who said she was ready for nuclear annihilation. Yeah, didn't she last like 21 days? Liz Truss was such an embarrassment. They use her as like a measure of time in the UK. Because she lasts like 21 days. Yeah, I'm going on vacation for one Liz Truss. I only got one Liz Truss of vacation time. Don't you know that Keir Starmer, he was in office for what? 20 Liz Truss? I don't know. Yeah, once again, Dr. Sabreena brought it. Thank you for that super chat, Marvin. $10 from Chief Madhu. White liberals see Britain and Scandinavia as perfect examples of socialist democracy. They also think Russia and China are imperialists, DPRK is a monarchy, and the AES are dumb Russian puppets. That's the DSA left, the CIA suitable left that came in existence to keep socialists in the United States left in line, to make sure that we hate the enemies of the empire and condemn any example of socialism and communism that is actually successful. Whenever you see one of these people repeat empire talking points, you know you shouldn't trust them. Because a lot of their conclusions come based off of lies. So I think that last super chat, we're already 2 hours in. I appreciate you guys for watching. I'm going to record a shoot a hotspot video here soon that I'm going to release tomorrow. Make sure you guys like and share. I'm tired, if you guys can't tell. It was already a pretty long day. So hopefully you guys enjoy the stream. Please like and share. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe if you enjoyed our conversations. I'm going to have another collab with Rathbone soon. A lot of great guests on the schedule as well. Make sure you click the bell so you get notified for our streams, because you know the algorithm keep us suppressed. Also, if you want to support my work, please support us on Patreon. I'm just a small working class journalist, and anyone support on Patreon to help me continue to expand my work. So I appreciate anyone who does that. Appreciate you guys for watching. Have a good rest of your evening. Take care.